Fight fans, welcome to the PBC Podcast, brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions with your host, Kenneth Bouhairie and Michael Rosenthal.
Welcome, everyone, to the PBC Podcast. I'm Kenneth Bouhairie.
And I'm Michael Rosenthal, editor of USA Today's Boxing Junkie.
Of course, we want to thank you all for joining us this week. Former world champion Brandon Figueroa will stop by. Figueroa's back in action Saturday night on SHOWTIME against Mark Magsayo, yet another Fight of the Year candidate, and we'll be breaking it down in a little bit. We've also got welterweight contender Rashidi Ellis joining us. You don't want to miss what he has to say. Mike and I will take a look at last weekend's action as well. And in this week's toe-to-toe segment, we'll list our top 5 PBC 140-pounders. But first, there were some big exhibition bouts last weekend. One that caught my eye, and yours too, from what we discussed, was Floyd Mayweather versus Aaron Chalmers. Just because, it's nice to see a glimpse of Money Mayweather in the ring, even if it isn't, a prime Money Mayweather, not even a past prime Money Mayweather. He's been doing a lot of exhibitions. What do you make of these events?
Well, I certainly don't get excited about them. I don't think they even rise to the level of a training session, to be honest with you, because they don't lead to anything. It's like an old timers. I always compare it to like an old timers game in baseball, which I guess appeals to some people. At the same time, and I've said this before, I'm a capitalist. If people are interested in seeing their boxing heroes after their careers are over, God bless them, supply and demand. I support Mayweather and the others who are doing this. They're making a living. They're making people happy.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a market for it, then I can't be mad at all. And certainly, I mean, I think he's had 3 exhibitions this year. I don't even think he fought 3 times professionally. Anytime during the past decade.
He didn't really fight, though, anyway. But in these exhibitions, that's the point.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, by the way, what'd you think of what you saw? How did he look to you?
I don't know whether I'm in the minority here or not, but I thought he looked terrific for a guy who just turned 46 and doesn't train full time. It's difficult. Obviously, it's difficult to gauge much of anything because Chalmers is about as raw as it gets. He's had a few MMA fights, one boxing match. That said, Mayweather looks like he still has many of the qualities that made him successful. He's still quick. He still looks like he has good reflexes, good timing. His punches were accurate. He's really well preserved. Obviously, he's such a great defensive fighter. He just never took shots in his career. I don't think he could beat the Terrence Crawfords and Errol Spences of the world, but I think he could still be competitive against like lower ranked contenders. I guess it's a good thing. I'll add this. I guess it's a good thing that we won't find out. He doesn't want to take risks. He doesn't want to risk getting hurt at this stage of the game, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, he does look quick, and you see, like I said, the glimpses of Money Mayweather. And hey, if he could whip himself into shape, who knows? But I think the whipping himself into shape part is the most difficult. I remember when he spoke of retirement, he mentioned, after the McGregor fight, that he didn't want to put his body, through that sort of regimen. It was either before or after the McGregor fight, I'm not sure, that he didn't want to put his body through that sort of regimen again. So it must be difficult. But, I remember a colleague of mine telling me that he feels like Mayweather could roll out of bed and still beat half of the top 10 welterweights.
He probably could.
He's just that special. It was nice to see. Anyway, let's move on and jump right into the PBC fight of the week. Saturday night, PBC is back with our 3rd event in 4 weeks, a battle of former world champions Brandon Figueroa versus Mark Magsayo for the vacant interim WBC featherweight title, live on SHOWTIME. Action will begin at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and we will begin here with the essentials.
Okay, here we go. Brandon Figueroa, 23 1-on-1 with 18 knockouts. Mark Magsayo, 24-1 with 16. Figueroa is 3 1-1 in his last 5 with 3 knockouts. Magsayo 4-1 with 2 knockouts. Last fight for Figueroa was a 6th round technical knockout of Carlos Castro this past June. Magsayo lost a split decision and his title to Ray Vargas the same month, same day. Figueroa's got a 72% knockout ratio, Magsayo 64. Figueroa, they have almost the same amount of professional experience in terms of rounds, 141 for Figueroa, 143 for Magsayo. Figueroa is 26, Magsayo 27. Figueroa turned pro in 2015, Magsayo 2013. They both fight from an orthodox stance. Figueroa will have a little advantage in height, 5'8" to 5'6". Pretty good size advantage in reach, if these are accurate, assume they are. 72.5 for Figueroa and 68 for Magsayo. Mr. Figueroa is from Weslaco, Texas, and Magsayo's a Filipino, but he lives in Los Angeles.
A lot of people believe this is a fight of the year candidate. Why?
It's pretty simple. The styles, they're both offensive-minded guys who, try to hurt their opponents and generally do. I don't think Figueroa could be in a bad fight, frankly. He's just a relentless brawler. I don't think he's reckless, but he's relentless. Magsayo boxes a little bit more maybe, but, he's a warrior by nature. So this is a serious clash of offense-minded guys.
Yeah, it is. Definitely a fight of the year candidate, but also a fight with serious implications. Why is this fight so important for each fighter?
Also pretty simple. The winner could get an immediate shot at the WBC title, which is currently held by Rey Vargas. The loser takes a significant step backward, particularly if he loses badly. This is pretty much the biggest type of stepping stone in the business. Win and you get to fight for a major title, and you know what that means in terms of, prestige and money. You lose, then who knows when you get your next shot.
Right, exactly. Both of these guys obviously have a lot on the line for this fight. Figueroa, this is second bout at 126. We saw what he did to Carlos Castro in his first bout with the 6-round stoppage. What did we learn about him against Castro?
Well, I guess the main thing we learned was he's comfortable at 126. Castro isn't a particularly big featherweight, but he's a good one. He was coming off his only loss, a split decision against Luis Neri, which is pretty good performance. And Figueroa just destroyed him, just like he did to most opponents at 122. He relies on an accumulation of punches to break down his opponents. He's not necessarily like one punch knockout power. I think that's going to translate well as he moves up a weight, because he's just going to throw a lot of punches. That's what he does, and I think he's just going to break people down no matter how high he goes up in weight.
Yeah, and it was a nice win for him coming off that close loss to Stephen Fulton in the fight prior to that. Right. Particularly good since it was his first fight at 126. Now, in Magsayo's case, he lost the WBC featherweight title to Rey Vargas in his last fight. What did you make of his performance that night?
Now, I thought Vargas outboxed him, in the first half of the fight, which made me think, that a particularly good technician could get the better of Magsayo. Although he did beat Russell, Russell was fighting with one hand, and he still made it competitive. But then Magsayo rallied, which told me something about his heart. He was even able to put Vargas down in the ninth round, So he came up short on the cards, but I think his grit down the stretch was a good sign for him going forward. He's a good boxer. He's a tough guy. He's got power. I think he's got more success in his future, and he sort of proved that to me in the second half of the Vargas fight.
So who are you picking Saturday night?
So the last two guys Magsayo fought were boxers, Gary Russell and Vargas, as I mentioned. Figueroa obviously is not that, and I'm not sure that's good. And I'm not sure that's good news for Magsayo. Magsayo told me, I had a chance to interview him. He told me that the jab and body shots will slow Figueroa down, which obviously makes perfect sense. I just don't see it. Nobody's been able to deter Figueroa, not even Stephen Fulton. I think that Figueroa is going to outwork Magsayo, take whatever Magsayo dishes out, emerge with either a clear decision or even a late stoppage.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, but I don't agree. I am going with the upset here. I like Mark Magsayo by TKO. Look, I think he's still learning. I thought he looked like a better fighter against Ray Vargas than he did against Gary Russell, and he looked better against Gary Russell than he did against Julio Ceja. And he's a real student of the game. I think he takes the sport seriously. I think he's more natural at that weight, a little more explosive and heavier-handed with single shots. I figure Figueroa won't be hard to find, and that ultimately will be his undoing.
You know, you know what? I could see Magsayo winning, I guess, but I just keep thinking about what Figueroa did against Fulton, who's on people's pound-for-pound list now. I think a lot of people thought he won that fight. Figueroa has completely won me over. Magsayo has not won me over. I guess that's the difference for me.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I think that look, I could easily see Figueroa wearing Magsayo down. I thought Magsayo struggled against a pressure fighter against Ceja, although he did, pull it out of the fire against Ceja. However, I think he did struggle against that style, and no one's better at that style than Brandon Figueroa. I expect him to be bigger, stronger, in this weight class, and it's going to be a great fight regardless of what happens. I just like Magsayo here, able to land those big shots, and he's a heavy hitter, man. The question is, can Figueroa take it? Now, if he can, then I see your prediction coming through. If he can't, then it's going to be a long year for you in the prediction league again.
Yeah, I'm off to a bad start. So yeah, but actually, I'm glad you picked Magsayo. I'm pretty confident Figueroa's going to win it.
I like it. We'll see what happens. Also on Saturday night's card, former unified 154-pound champion Swift Jared Hurd makes his anticipated ring return against Armando Resendez. We've also got a real good scrap between two unbeaten middleweights in a televised opener. Amilcar Vidal taking on Elijah Garcia in 10-round action. Big fight for both of those young guys. But let's bring in our first guest this week, a welterweight contender itching to get back in the ring and erase the memory of his last fight, Rashidi Ellis. Rashidi, first, how you been, man?
I've been good. Nothing much. Can't complain.
Yeah, we haven't heard from you in a minute. I mean, you gave us a fight of the year candidate in January. Ultimately, you came up short on the cards. You've had time to think about what happened against Roiman Villa. In your opinion, what went wrong?
In my opinion, I still thought I won the fight, but the opinion is just I just got caught with a shot. I just got caught with that shot the last round. Other than that, I think I did good.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned the 12th round, which you went down 2 times. That pretty much gave him the victory. You just mentioned that you took a good shot, but take us through that round. What's going through your mind? How hurt were you? That kind of thing.
I wasn't that hurt the last round, but I was still up and moving.
Okay, so all right. So you also mentioned the scorecards, which were close. One judge had it a draw, and the other two had Villa winning by 2 points. I actually had you winning 114, 112.
I had myself winning too.
Well, there you go. So you said that you thought you won the fight. So you basically think that in a way you got screwed by the judges?
Yeah, definitely. Like in a 12-round fight, how do you win just having 3 good rounds? It just don't add up to me. But that was the judge's opinion.
Do you kick yourself because of what happened in the 12th round though? Because if that hadn't happened, then you would have won the fight.
No, I think the scorecard said even if it didn't happen, even if you just won that round, I think it would have been a draw or something like that, right?
I don't think so, actually. I think it would have been the other way around. I think it would have been 14-12 on those cards. Let's say you won the 12th round. It would have been, I don't know. We'd have to go back and look at the numbers. At any rate.
Yeah. Because if you won the 12th round without a knockdown, it would have been a draw. Would have been 13.
Oh, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. So I still don't see that either. It's like how? I don't know.
You never
Have
know.
you watched the fight again since?
Yes, it gets me frustrated watching it. Seeing how did you win?
Well, do you look at your performance too, and think like, oh, I could have done this or I could have done that?
Yeah, it was definitely some things I could have did, but yet again, I found myself on the back because there's no excuses. I only had one hand when I fought that guy. That's why I threw so many jabs. I hurt my right hand, but I knew I could have beat him with one hand, so that's why.
And you feel that's what you did. I know, it's difficult for any fighter to accept, that first L on their record. How have you been able to cope with that?
No, I just want that rematch. I want that rematch ASAP.
Got it. So you're focused on avenging the loss. You're not.
Yeah.
That's your focus. I get it.
Yeah, it don't sit well with me because I didn't feel like I lost. If I got beat up and I lost, it was like, okay, I took the loss, but I feel like I won the fight. So I don't know.
Got it. Even though you thought you won, and I actually thought you won, what lessons did you come away with from that fight? Any?
Yeah. Oh, what can I say? It just stay sharp and all around. Like stay aware. Even the last round.
Got it. That makes perfect sense.
I was getting too trigger happy.
There you go. It's an important that's an important lesson, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you get back in the gym right away after the fight? Sounds like you really want that rematch. Did you hop right back into the gym and start working?
Yeah, I took like a week off. It was like the longest I ever took off. Truthfully, I took a week off and I was right back.
Got it. So there weren't any physical problems, nothing like that after that. You felt good after that fight.
Nah, just my swollen lip from the headbutts and my nuts hurt. But other than that, I was good.
Do you, are there areas you feel that you could improve?
Like I said, I had one hand, so it's really, I can't say. But if I had two, I know I could have did more. But
do you feel that also, given that you hadn't been that many rounds in so long, might have affected you, later in the fight?
It could be part of it because I didn't win that much rounds in 3 years, probably.
Right.
Yeah, I only went one round in the past 4 years or 3 years, whatever how long it was.
Right.
It could be, but
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think. Well, will you be a better fighter because of what happened against Villa, in your opinion?
Oh yeah, of course. Now I'm back in my groove. Now now I'm more excited to go back in there. I'm always excited, but now I'm extra excited to go back in there.
Like extra motivation, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's what it's added on.
You mentioned the injury, and forgive me if this has been discussed, elsewhere. But what injury was it? When did you suffer that injury?
I was my right elbow. It was like a month and a half before the fight. Or probably a little longer, honestly. But yeah.
So it wasn't 100% when you stepped into the ring.
No, it wasn't.
How does it feel now?
Oh, I'm good now. That's why I want that rematch ASAP.
So how likely do you think the rematch is?
It's up to him. I really want it. Hopefully we can get on the fight with Tank and Ryan if that fight's really happening. Was that April?
April 20. You just told me.
April 22nd. Yep.
Yeah, April 22nd.
Yeah. Well, hopefully there.
So.
It don't matter.
Yeah. So that fight against Villa was an IBF title eliminator. So Villa may look toward a fight with interim IBF champ Boots Ennis. If that happens, let's say you can't get him right away, what would you do?
If I can't, it's just anybody can get it. It don't matter. Hopefully I could get someone with a good name, but my eyes are just on that rematch.
Got it. So you'll beat up whoever they put in front of you.
Exactly. Use my mind.
It sounds like you're really raring to go. So when do you think it's realistic for you to actually get back into the ring?
April.
So you're ready to go as soon as April.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're only talking a couple months. Very good.
Yeah.
All right, Rashidi, thanks for taking the time. We really appreciate it. Good luck going forward, and we look forward to having you back on the podcast.
Hey, thanks for the call. I'll go as well.
You too, man. Take care.
Live on Showtime, it's an explosive clash between top contenders. Former champ Brandon the Heartbreaker Figueroa.
Stuns him with the right hand.
Aim for the target.
battles former title holder Mark Magsayo.
What a fight!
Two fighters at a crossroads. One road back to the top.
I'm armed and I'm dangerous, I can't be guarded.
Brandon Figueroa versus Mark Magsayo in an all-action bout between former champs on Showtime.
Last Saturday at the Armory in Minneapolis, PBC on Showtime delivered another fun triple header. In the main event, Subriel Matias announced his arrival among the elite in the 140-pound division. Matias stopped Jeremias Ponce in 6 rounds to become the IBF 140-pound world champ. Mike, what were your thoughts on the fight?
I thought it was an entertaining fight. I think Ponce surprised everybody, including Matias, by coming out as aggressively as he did in the first round, which sort of set the tone for the fight. And even though Matias shifted into another gear after the slow start and broke Ponce down, Ponce continued to fire shots almost until the very final seconds of the fight. I think which just made it fun to watch. It was fast-paced, high-intensity fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually don't think Matias was surprised by Ponce at all. I mean, watching tape of Ponce before the fight, that's just how he fights. He's all out. Once the bell rings, nonstop, aggression. But I gotta admire the way Matias handled him. What did you think of Matias's performance?
I thought it was another strong performance. He weathered the early storm like a pro, and then, then just took it to Ponce in a big way. He methodically, intelligently breaking down a pretty tough guy who had never lost a fight before Saturday night. The punishment he dished out in the final few rounds was pretty brutal. That's what he does to pretty much everyone. He beats you. Beats the what out of you. That's why he's been able to stop everybody's face. I mean, there's a reason that he's knocked out everybody's face in the ring.
Yeah, I thought he was fantastic. I went back and watched the fight again, and Matias took over as early as round 2, and by round 4, Ponce was wilting, which came as a shock to me. Could Ponce have done anything to change the outcome?
Well, fighting aggressively as he did against a guy like Matias, I guess wasn't a good idea. I'll follow the lead of Mark Magsayo and say that Ponce could have tried to jab, and go to the body more than he did. He did some, but maybe he could have done that more in an attempt to slow Matias down. But I really think he should have tried to stick and move a little bit, although I don't know whether he has that in him. I don't know whether he could do that. He is who he is. He's an aggressive guy. So I think in the end, it was sort of a mission impossible for Ponce.
Yeah, it certainly was. It was fight fire with fire, and ultimately, Matias had the heavier artillery. What did you think of the way the fight ended?
Honestly, I thought it was strange at the time. Ponce was definitely hurt at the end of round 5, but he survived that. And it didn't appear to me that he had taken so much punishment at that particular point that he would stay on his stool after the round. You know what, though? His cornerman, knew better than I did, obviously. They saw that their guy was getting hurt, and I think they made the right move in the end. Honestly, I didn't really see it. I thought he could go on, but I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt that he was, if they did let it go on, that he could have gotten hurt seriously.
Yeah, I think that's how they looked at him. And so I thought it was the right call. Again, I felt he was weakening and really taking a lot of punishment. He had a good poker face, but those shots were hurting. You watch him go back to his corner those last couple rounds, and he was suffering. Live to see another day.
That's what Matias does.
Yep. And who should, before we get into Matias, who do you think Ponce should fight next?
I think in Ponce's case, they should take a step back. Maybe fight a fringe guy, maybe back home in Argentina. He's fought a lot in Europe. Win that fight, build up your confidence, and then try to build toward another title shot. So if I were him, I'd fight a guy that I've never heard of, get a win under your belt, and then move forward.
Yeah, he's still only 26 years old. There's time, and I think he's got a pretty high ceiling based on what we saw on Saturday night. What did you think of Matias's demeanor after the fight? He didn't seem overly excited about winning his first world title.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit odd. So did Jim Gray, who was interviewing after the fight. Maybe it's just his personality. Maybe it's what he said, that he just fully expected to do exactly what he did after a long, hard camp. It's like he was thinking, I knew that was going to happen. Why make a big deal out of it? But honestly, I also think he's a little jaded. I don't think he likes the business side of boxing very much. I think that might hover over everything for him. Anyway, in spite of all that, I know he was pleased to become a world champion. That's something that everybody, I don't care what your personality's like, that's something everybody dreams of. And I think deep down inside, he was a really happy guy after that fight.
Yeah, I think so too. I didn't see anything that signaled that he was, concerned about the business side, or maybe I don't know.
I got that when he was on the podcast.
I see. Yeah, as far as the best fighting the best and so forth. Well, he's certainly doing his part. Where do you rank Matias among the 140 pounders today?
Well, he's certainly among the best handful of guys, and it's pretty obvious. Maybe you got to put him behind fellow title holders Regis Prograis and Josh Taylor, because they've accomplished a little bit more at the moment. But I think he's right with guys like Alberto Puello, Teofimo Lopez, Gary Antoine Russell, guys like that. I think in the end he's a threat to anybody, any of the guys that I mentioned above. It's maybe not quite as accomplished as a couple guys, but he's right there.
Who would you like to see him face next?
Well, he wants Prograis. I love that fight. That would be another step up for Matias, which is a really interesting matchup. I like that matchup. Can he overcome that challenge? Honestly, I really don't know, which is why I hope it happens, because it's really intriguing. Obviously, Puello, who holds the WBA belt, is another good option. That's also an interesting fight, different styles. There are a lot of good fighters at 140, which is a really deep division, which speaks to our toe-to-toe, this episode. Actually, I didn't even realize there were so many 140 pounders under the PBC umbrella. There's so many. Yeah. Anyway, Matias is a legitimate opponent for any of the guys you can think of. He's a legitimate opponent for anybody, and he might end up being the best of the bunch.
Exactly. I put him in with anybody. It's a must-see TV. In the co-feature, former WBA interim welterweight champion and Minneapolis hometown favorite Jamal Shango James won a 10-round unanimous decision over Alberto Palmetta. Mike, some folks thought the fight was closer than the scorecards indicated. How did you see it?
Yeah, I didn't see it that way. I had it, and remember, I picked Palmetta to win the fight. I had it 98.
Oh, I remember.
Well, I know you do. I was reminding the listeners. I had it 98-92 for James. Like two of the judges had it. The other score was 99-91, which I thought was okay too, to be honest. It was a one-sided fight.
Yeah, I had James winning clearly as well. What did you think of his performance overall?
I actually thought he was terrific. Even though he said he had rust after a long layoff, I didn't see too much rust. He used his jab to keep, the shorter man away. He threw and landed combinations, hard, accurate combinations, consistently. He outworked Palmetta. He didn't stick around long enough for Palmetta to respond to what he was doing. And I thought when Palmetta was able to work his way inside, I thought James at least held his own in those exchanges. So I thought it was a beautiful exhibition of boxing and athleticism from James, which is what how I've always seen him. He's a legitimate contender. He's a guy who belongs in the ring with anyone.
Who would you like to see him in the ring with next?
I think he didn't sound like it afterward, and even during the fight, he didn't sound like it, but I think he's ready for a contender. I don't want to go overboard. I think he's ready for a contender. How about him and Mario Barrios, just beat Giovanni Santiago.
That's a good fight.
Impressive fashion.
I like that.
I'd have him fight a guy at the level of a Cody Crowley or an Abel Ramos, who are fighting each other in March. Rashidi Ellis, Luke Santa Maria, Roiman Villa, who just had a big win. So you get the idea. I think he's ready for it. I think he could probably beat top guys.
I love the Barrios versus Jamal James fight. That's a really, really good fight. I hope the powers that be are listening. Now, in the televised opener, Elvis Rodriguez took another step toward world title contention at 140 pounds. He won a 10-round majority decision over Joseph Adorno. What were your thoughts on the decision?
Okay, so I thought this was a weird decision. I don't see how Judge Patrick Morley had it a draw. With the knockdowns, that means he gave Adorno 6 of the 10 rounds. I just don't see how he found that many rounds to give Adorno, even though he gave a spirited effort. Didn't win that many rounds. I don't even like the 95-93 score, which was 5 rounds apiece. Scott Erickson had it 97-91, 7 rounds to 3 for Rodriguez. That was my score. I guess the first 2 judges can say that the first 5 or 6 rounds were hard to score. Maybe they just leaned toward Adorno for whatever reason. But I think that Rodriguez was clearly the stronger fighter down the stretch, though. So I'm a little bit baffled, but at least the right guy won, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. Plus, Rodriguez scored 2 knockdowns. I mean, I thought it should have been a clearer win, if anything. What'd you make of his performance?
I thought he did pretty good. Neither guy, did much of anything for the first 5 or 6 rounds, but I thought Rodriguez dominated the last part of the fight, as I said. I thought he was impressive down the stretch. He let his hands go in those rounds, which you have to do to win fights. He gave away some early rounds. I would advise him not to be so tentative early in the fight. Maybe in the first round, if you want to get a feel for the other guy, okay, but don't do it for the first half of the fight. That's how you give away fights. But anyway, it's all part of the learning process. He looked good. He won the fight. He got the job done.
What about Adorno? What did you make of how he performed?
Same. I thought he did okay. Yeah, I thought he fought Rodriguez on roughly even terms for the first half of the fight. I thought he countered really nicely, sort of waited for Rodriguez to do his thing and then countered well. I thought he beat Rodriguez to the punch, a number of times in the first half of the fight. And he did take many good shots himself. I just thought that when Rodriguez hurt him, and he hurt him pretty badly in round 7, and then he kicked it into a higher gear. Adorno was a little bit overwhelmed at that point. It was all once again, it was all Rodriguez down the stretch, but Adorno gave the kind of performance I expected, spirited performance, competitive, just came up a little short.
Yeah, I thought he looked good, but the question is, should he remain at 140 now, or should he go back down to 135?
I don't know. He really did look like the much smaller guy. I mean, they looked like they were from different weight classes. But at the same time, he took that one big shot from Rodriguez and survived it. He pretty much took everything else. I guess the question for him is whether he can hurt people at 140. I don't think he hurt Rodriguez. Maybe that could be a factor. I don't know. I guess I would just tell him to fight where he's comfortable. But I always tell guys, if you could fight at the lower weight, at least fairly comfortably, I would do that. I think he'd be stronger and have more power at the lower weight.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. What about Rodriguez, though? Who should he face next?
I think Rodriguez, maybe he shouldn't, but at this point, but I think he still has room to grow. He's 27 years old, though. I think he needs to try to make a move this year. Maybe he'll rise to the challenge if he faces a top contender. We'll see. He certainly has the ability. I just wonder whether he's polished enough.
Yeah, that's really the question. I think that he continue to develop him as you would suggest usually, and see what's next. But he's inching closer to world title contention. And on the other hand, you are inching further away from me in our prediction league. I am now 6-1. You are 5-2. We know how this story goes. You're not going to catch up.
The good news is it's really early. We'll see. Well, I'm going to be even after next week.
Well, you're right. It is early, and I say that you won't catch up without a concern in my body, a concerned bone in my body, and all. You're not going to catch up. That's it. I'm about to pull away this weekend, and then desperate times call for desperate measures. So we'll see what you come up with the rest of the year. Anyway, let's bring in our next guest, the former WBC 122-pound champion, now vying for the WBC interim 126-pound title when he battles Mark Magsayo Saturday night at the Toyota Arena in Ontario, California, live on Showtime, Brandon the Heartbreak Figueroa. Brandon, you're back on Saturday night against Mark Magsayo for the WBC interim featherweight title. How excited are you for this bout?
I'm very excited. Mark Magsayo, pushover. It's for WBC interim belt. And what more else can I say? I love these fights. I love fighting the best of the best and fighting for world titles. What else could I ask for? I'm just very excited, and I can't wait for Saturday.
You said Magsayo isn't a pushover. Give us your thoughts on him as a fighter. What do you see when you kind of do your breakdown?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's a strong, explosive fighter. He's quick, fast. He has a lot of good abilities, and I just got to go out there and dominate him. Do what I do best and break him down. I know he's a good, strong fighter, but I feel like I'm just stronger than him, and I just want to win. I just feel like I have what it takes to win, and I just can't wait to go out there and put it all together.
I'm sure you've seen his last couple fights. And obviously he's been a successful fighter, but do you see any weaknesses? Do you see any things that you can exploit in him?
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that Ray Vargas boxed him, the fact that Ceja overwhelmed him, and that's something that I do so well, which is I can box and I can brawl. I can take the fight to you. I can take him from you. So I just got to go out there and execute. It's easier said than done, but I just got to go out there and make it all happen, put it all together, and use my abilities for the best that I can, and just go out there and dominate him.
Given the matchup of your style versus his, is it safe to say this one's going to be another war?
It can be. It could lead to a war. But like I said, I just got to see. I got to see how he reacts to the certain things that I do, and if I feel necessary that I do better on the inside, and I feel like I'm winning on the inside, breaking them down wise, and I just got to do so.
This is going to be your second fight at featherweight. How do you feel at 126 compared to 122?
Man, I feel amazing. I just feel more stronger, more explosive, more quick, fast, timing. I just feel more complete. I feel more of a complete fighter. And I feel like I'm able to use my abilities better. Not so much as drained as I was at 122. I mean, it's tough. It's tough making 126 as well. Just making weight regardless is tough. But if you think about it, I mean, I don't have to kill myself to make 122 anymore. And I just feel so much better and more complete at 126.
Now, last July in your first fight at 126, you stopped Carlos Castro. How did you feel that night? Was it a bit of an adjustment for you?
Yeah, I mean, I did notice a little bit of different things. Just felt different. Just felt a little bit more relaxed, and I got to get used to that because I know I went to the six. I know, like I said, I just have more confidence due to the fact that I know I carry more power, and I carry just more strength, and and I just feel like come Saturday, I just got to put it all together and just be smart in there and box Mark Magsayo and get on the inside and break him down.
So Magsayo is known for his punching power. What do you have to do in order to deal with that?
I guess timing. My timing has to be really good for me to cancel his power, and I got to be quick, and I got to take that power away from him, and the way I got to do so is work the body and break him down.
So there was talk of your next fight possibly being a rematch with Stephen Fulton. So how disappointing are you that fight didn't happen instead of this one?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty disappointing, but I mean, I got a fight in front of me. I got a bbig fight in front of me, and I know Inoue moving up to 122 was probably due to the fact that changed the plans, and I know Fulton, he wants to unify, and I see no problem with that. I understand boxing is a business, and he has to do what he has to do, and I got to do what I got to do for my legacy. And I feel like that later down the line, we'll fight each other. So I feel like there's a rush, and I feel like it'll happen. And whenever it happens, it'll be bigger than the first one.
Was the rematch supposed to be at 22 or 26?
26 for sure.
Okay. So assuming you went on Saturday night, who do you anticipate fighting next?
Whoever Ray Vargas wants to defend it, then Ray Vargas or whoever. At this point, I don't care. I just want to get into with the best of the best and keep winning these fights.
Have you heard anything about whether Vargas is going to come back down and wait to defend the title?
Nah, I haven't heard nothing. No.
Guess we'll see. Now, last question for you. You've already won a world title. You've proven yourself at the highest level. What else do you want to accomplish in the sport of boxing?
I mean, I just want to go above and beyond and see how far the sport takes me. Maybe win a belt or two at 126, move up to 130, and just keep it rolling. I feel like I have enough room to grow, and I'm really feel like I'll mature into 130, 135, 140 even, and I'm just excited for what's to come.
That's great to hear, because we're excited to have you back, Brandon. All the best to you on Saturday night. Wishing you the best, and we can't wait to have you back on again.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Live on Showtime, it's an explosive clash between top contenders. Former champ Brandon the Heartbreaker Figueroa
Stuns him with the right hand.
Aim for the target.
battles former title holder Mark Magsayo.
What a fight!
Two fighters at a crossroads. One road back to the top.
I'm armed and I'm dangerous, I can't be guarded.
Brandon Figueroa versus Mark Magsayo in an all-action bout between former champs on Showtime.
It's time for Mike and I to go toe-to-toe. This week we are listing our top 5 PBC 140-pounders in ascending order, of course. So, Mike, the floor is yours.
Okay. Actually, number 5 was pretty hard. I went through a number of guys, but I decided to just go with a hunch here, and my choice for number 5 is Brandon Lee. Lee's only 23. He doesn't have the best resume yet, but he's met every challenge so far and seems to have, to me at least, he seems to have all the ingredients necessary to succeed on a high level. He's got a good amateur foundation. He's got boxing ability. He's athletic, and he's got world-class punching power. The guy really hits hard. I would say he's still developing. But he's 27-0. He's 23 knockouts. He's got a good record. And he's worked his way into the rankings. He's now a ranked contender. I don't know how he'd fare against next level opposition, but I think he'd do well based on what I've seen so far. I think he's got something, but we'll see in time. We need to see him against a big time opponent, but I really like what I see.
Yeah, certainly. He's got the tools, and you can see that. And he's someone on the cusp for me. So's Elvis Rodriguez. These are guys who I believe are closing in on world title contention, but need those, signature victories. Essentially need to step up. They are slightly behind my number 5, Kenneth Sims. Sims at 29, I think, is in his prime right now. Yes, he had those 2 defeats, but he hasn't lost in about 5 years. And he does have a win over the aforementioned Elvis Rodriguez, and then Keyshawn Williams in his next bout. But the Rodriguez win is primarily the reason why he's number 5 on my list. I do want to see Sims step up again. Hey, maybe we see a rematch against Elvis Rodriguez.
Yeah, Sims is one of the guys that I considered for the reasons that you stated, and yeah, he's more advanced than Lee. I guess I looked at his record and I saw those losses to guys who are not at the top level, 2017, 2018. And maybe I focused too much on that, to be honest. So he bounced back from that to beat Rodriguez. He's on a win streak now. So good choice. Yeah. I'd like to see him break through because, he is good. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, fun to see him in the mix. Let's go on to number 4. My number 4 is Sergey Lipinets. This man has been so good at 140 for so long. He held the IBF title here, moved up to 147 and had some success before the loss to Jaron Ennis. Comes back down to 140 and he looks great obliterating Omar Figueroa. I really want to see this guy in with the best at 140 once again. I mean, he's still explosive, has great power, he's crafty, and he has a lot of experience. Sergey Lipinets is a tough out for anyone in the division.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the last part of what you said. I think this is a guy who, tough guy, comes to fight, really knows what he's doing. He's got a solid foundation, in terms of the fundamental. I guess he didn't make my list because I think of him a guy who comes up just short in his biggest fights. I don't think Omar Figueroa had much left, but he did look good in that fight. He really did look good. I think for me, it's let's see what he can do going forward. Can he win that big fight? I need to see that before I would put him on my list.
Well, who you got for number 4?
So 4 was actually pretty hard for me too, because this is one of the guys that I was thinking about for number 5 or possibly not even making my list. But I ended up going with Bouhairie Akhmadov. I don't know if Akhmadov beats the top 140 pounders, but he would definitely take him to hell and back, regardless of the result. You know, we saw that when he fought Alberto Puello, who had to rely on every ounce of his resilience to survive Akhmadov's relentless pressure. I mean, that was just insane what he put Puello through. Akhmadov lost, but he made a really strong impression to me. Again, I think he'll fall short in some fights, but I think he'll break through if he continues to fight with the kind of passion and energy that we've seen from him. And he should get more opportunities. You know, he's ranked number 3 by the WBA, so he could have another title shot in his future. And I just think he's a beast. He's fun to watch, and who knows, he may have a big victory in him.
Yeah, and he's another tough out for anyone. We saw what he did with Mario Barrios, along with the fight with Puello. He's just a really solid fighter. Barely did make my list, so I like the choice there. Let's move on to number 3. Mine is Gary Antoine Russell. He's still only 26 years old, but, this dude is blessed with phenomenal athletic ability, talent. He's got the pedigree. Comes from a fighting background, was an outstanding amateur, and now as a pro, he's 16-0 with 60 knockouts, and he has stopped 2 former world champions in his last 2 bouts. I think Russell's ceiling is very, very high. I do think there are things that need to be worked on, and I believe if he continues to round out his game, he will eventually be the top guy in the division.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, which is why Gary Antoine Russell is also number 3 for me. You know what? I actually considered him for number 1 because of what I see, the talent. But I held myself back because, I think there's 2 guys that are ahead of him in terms of accomplishments. You mentioned that he's knocked out everybody he's faced. He has beaten some good opponents, although I think he's still building his resume, which is why he's not higher. To me, he's a good athletic boxer who loves to mix it up. And obviously has the punching power you need to fight that way. He's not reckless, though. I think he's got a really strong boxing IQ. There's method to his madness, if you will. The jury is out, I think, to a certain extent, because we need to see him against that next level opponent. Yep. But he's passed every test with flying colors so far. I suspect he's going to go a long way.
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, like I said, I think if he just continues to work at his craft, he should be the top guy. All right, what's next?
So number 2 for me is, I mentioned him earlier, Alberto Puello. He's a terrific boxer who's just utterly unflappable, as we saw in his fight against Akhmadov. As I mentioned earlier, Akhmadov attacked him like a madman, and Puello not only withstood the pressure, but he fired back from beginning to end. What I thought was a clear victory for him. I always thought Puello was a gifted, polished technician, which he is. The fight with Akhmadov told me something about his resilience, which a fighter needs to climb to the top of the heap. He faces Raleigh Romero in his next fight. That'll give us a better idea where he stands. I think he's going to do well.
Yeah, and I assume our 3-2-1s are going to be the same because I have Alberto Puello as my number 2. I feel he's underrated. He's just a really, really good boxer and still improving, in my opinion. 28 years old, 21-0, coming off that that tough win over Akhmadov that you mentioned to capture the WBA 140-pound strap, and he's got that intriguing showdown versus Romero, and I think the winner of that should go for unification. Let's go to number 1. I think we've got the same number 1. Mine is Subriel Matias. He passes the eye test, and he has quietly collected a slew of good wins at 140, Malik Hawkins, Jukambayev, Ananyan, and now that brutal stoppage over Jeremiah Ponce. Well, he stops everyone brutally pretty much. We need unification now. I mean, get this guy in with Regis Prograis or the Puello Romero winner, but let's make it happen because Matias is must-see TV each and every time out.
Yep, he's my number 1. He's just a force of nature. He's a good boxer with elite punching power and a great chin, which maybe people don't mention. I've never seen him get hurt. He's one of those fighting machines, the kind that will just keep coming until the other guy can no longer fight, which is, in his case, we've seen it over and over and over again. He did meet his match in his first fight with Petros Ananyan. I think he faded in that fight because he took Ananyan for granted and probably didn't train quite as hard as he should have. Learned a lesson because he came back and he just destroyed Ananyan in 5 rounds in the rematch. The only question for me is opposition. Yes, he's had some good fights, but we need to see how he does against a guy like Regis Prograis. But I really like what I've seen so far, though. This guy's got he's already reached great heights, but I think he can go even higher.
Yeah, I mean, the thought of him versus Prograis, that's just a mouth-watering matchup. Brutal, and one of the best matchups that can be made in that division. But again, he is good each and every single time out. So just put him in with any of the top guys, and I'll be there to see it. That is going to do it for this week's show. We want to thank Brandon Figueroa and Rashidi Ellis for joining us. Speaking of Figueroa, don't forget Saturday night he takes on Mark Magsayo for the vacant interim WBC featherweight title at 9 p.m. Eastern time. You don't want to miss that. We're going to break that down and much more, of course, next week on the PBC Podcast.